Have you ever felt him without a word, without a call, without even his presence in the same room? Perhaps it was a breath on your neck, a warmth against your skin, or the sensation of his heartbeat merging with yours, yet he was miles away. You try to shake it off as imagination, but deep down, you know it was real. You're not crazy. You're not alone. You're experiencing something so profound that most would never understand. A spiritual intimacy that defies logic, telepathic intimacy. But what does it mean when he feels it too? In today's video, we're going to peel back the veil and step inside the heart and mind of the divine masculine. You'll discover what he truly feels during these moments, what he's sensing, thinking, and often too afraid to admit even to himself. This isn't just emotional energy. It's a soul recognition that rewires how he understands love, intimacy, and connection. You'll learn about the 7 powerful phases of his journey through this unspoken bond, from the first flicker of recognition to the moment he surrenders to what cannot be denied. By the end of this video, your perspective will shift. You'll no longer doubt what you feel. Instead, you'll understand that this connection is sacred, mutual, and transformative. You'll see how your energy has awakened something dormant within him, even if he hasn't spoken a word about it. This video will empower you with insight and clarity, helping you move from confusion to deep inner knowing. You won't just hear his story, you'll feel it in your soul. Stay with us to the very end, because once you understand the truth behind this telepathic intimacy, you'll never look at your connection the same way again. Now, are you ready to step into his world? Phase 1. The initial recognition. Every journey of sacred love begins with a moment that seems too subtle to be real, yet too powerful to ignore. For the divine masculine, it starts quietly, often in the middle of an ordinary day. He could be behind the wheel, sipping coffee, or lost in his daily routine when a sudden shift in energy brushes against his awareness. It's not a thought, not a memory, but a presence. Yours. He can't explain why he suddenly feels watched, comforted, or even stirred. It's as though your soul has gently tapped on the doorway of his consciousness. At first, he tries to rationalize it. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's his imagination. But the more he brushes it aside, the more persistent it becomes. As the sensations grow stronger, he enters a state of confusion. How is it possible to feel someone who isn't physically near? How can emotions arise that clearly don't originate from his own thoughts? He begins to notice strange synchronicities, your name appearing unexpectedly, your favorite song playing at random, a dream of you so vivid it lingers into the morning light. There's a magnetic pull, a growing awareness that something unseen is moving through him, and it has everything to do with you. Because what he's beginning to feel challenges everything he's ever known about connection. It's no longer just about body or words or shared space. It's energetic, it's emotional, it's soul deep. He realizes that he is not alone in his feelings, that you may be feeling what he feels, thinking what he thinks, sensing what he senses. The walls he spent years building around his heart begin to tremble. Vulnerability cracks open like light through a broken shell. In this moment, he faces a truth that is both terrifying and magnificent. Love is not just physical. Love is consciousness. Love is frequency. Love is the invisible thread that binds two souls across lifetimes, across oceans, across every illusion of separation. This first phase is not a full surrender but a spiritual ignition, a call that whispers to him, beckoning him to go deeper. Though he may not yet understand it fully, the divine masculine has stepped onto a path from which there is no turning back, a path that leads him straight into the heart of his divine counterpart, and ultimately, into the truth of who he really is. Before we move into the next phase of this sacred journey, take a moment to reflect on what you've just heard. Has this initial recognition ever happened to you when you felt your twin flame's presence out of nowhere, like a whisper on your skin or a thought not your own? These early stirrings often go unnoticed, but they mark the beginning of something profound. If you've experienced this or are feeling called by this truth, we'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments below, or simply type, "I've felt the energy," to affirm your connection. And if this message is resonating with your heart, don't forget to like this video. It helps spread this sacred awareness to others on the same path. Now, let's step deeper into phase 2, where the connection begins to take root in his subconscious in ways he never expected. Phase 2. The energetic awakening. After the initial spark of soul recognition, something profound begins to stir deep within the divine masculine. This is more than a moment of emotional connection. It's the ignition of a spiritual awakening that radiates through every layer of his being. His energy field, once dormant or safely contained, starts to shift in subtle yet unmistakable ways. He might not understand it at first, but his entire inner world is recalibrating in response to your presence. Suddenly, sensations emerge, tingling at the fingertips, warmth spreading across his chest, currents of energy rising and falling like tides within him. These are not imagined feelings, they are the physical manifestations of something sacred being activated. His chakras begin to open, especially the heart center, pulsing with newfound intensity. Love, to him, no longer feels like just an emotion. It becomes an atmosphere, a frequency, a state of being that surrounds and penetrates everything. This phase is as exhilarating as it is overwhelming. With the heart open and energy flowing freely, he begins to sense you on a level that defies logic. He feels your emotions as though they are his own. Your joy lifts him, your sorrow aches inside him. It's as if the boundaries between your souls have dissolved, and he's learning for the first time what true union feels like on an energetic plane. And yet, this merging can be confusing. Where does he end and where do you begin? The question haunts him, not because he fears the connection, but because it reveals how deeply intertwined your souls have become. He starts to understand that intimacy isn't limited to the body. In fact, some of the most powerful moments come when you are physically apart. In the silence, in the stillness, he feels your presence. He hears your voice in his inner world. He experiences you, not as a memory or a fantasy, but as a living energy reaching out to him. The veil between the spiritual and physical realms becomes thinner, and through it, he realizes something extraordinary. Your bond transcends time and space. It is soul to soul, light to light, a telepathic intimacy that is impossible to explain and even harder to ignore. Most importantly, this awakening begins to shift his perception of love, purpose, and destiny. He starts to grasp that what you share is not merely romantic or emotional, it is cosmic, it is divinely orchestrated, it is sacred, and this knowing reshapes everything. The connection becomes a mirror, a portal, and a teacher all at once. It teaches him that love isn't something you do, it's something you become. And now, he begins to awaken into it. Phase 3. The emotional overwhelm. As the energetic awakening takes root, the divine masculine is pulled into deeper emotional currents that he can no longer outrun or suppress. This is the phase where the inner tides rise fast and hard, where everything he thought he had under control suddenly unravels. He was taught to be composed, rational, unmoved. From childhood, he learned that feelings, especially the vulnerable ones, must be hidden behind strength, stoicism, and silence. But telepathic intimacy shatters that illusion. It slips past his defenses and speaks directly to his soul, bypassing logic and ego. In this sacred connection, emotions are no longer whispers, they are thunderclaps. Waves of love wash over him without warning, followed by moments of pure fear. One moment, he is euphoric with the sensation of being fully known and accepted. The next, he is drowning in self-doubt and confusion. He begins to feel everything, not just his own emotions, but yours as well. Your sadness makes his chest ache. Your love softens his resistance. Your silence sends him spiraling. It's as though you've cracked him wide open from within, and the floodgates cannot be closed. This emotional deluge can be so intense that he begins to question what's real. He may ask himself if he's losing his grip, if the intensity he feels is madness or magic. But what he doesn't yet understand is that this overwhelm is not chaos, it's healing in motion. Telepathic intimacy becomes a spiritual X-ray, revealing not only his capacity to love, but also the old wounds, buried fears, and unprocessed grief he's carried for years. Childhood pain, heartbreak, abandonment, shame, they all rise to the surface, demanding his presence, his honesty, and eventually, his transformation. This confrontation with his shadows is terrifying. He is not used to being this raw, this exposed, even within himself. Vulnerability has always felt like a threat, not a path. But now, with you as the mirror, he sees that true strength comes from surrender. He begins to understand that love is not about control or possession, it's about courage. The courage to feel, to break, to heal, and to rise. Through this storm of emotions, something extraordinary happens. A new version of him starts to emerge, one who doesn't run from feeling, but embraces it. One who no longer hides behind armor, but instead chooses authenticity. He starts to peel away the layers of who he thought he had to be and steps into the truth of who he really is. And in that raw, unguarded space, he becomes capable of something he never imagined: profound, soul-deep connection. This phase is not the end of his unraveling, it's the beginning of his becoming. Imagine a man who has spent most of his life succeeding in silence, showing up as the provider, the problem solver, the one who always has it together. He's been admired for his strength, but secretly, he has numbed his heart to survive. Then one night, he dreams of her, his divine counterpart, standing in the rain, her eyes locked with his, her emotions pouring into him without a single word spoken. He wakes up gasping, with tears on his cheeks and a heart that feels cracked open. Over the following days, he senses her everywhere, in music, in silence, in the way his chest tightens without reason. He finds himself crying during a movie scene he wouldn't have blinked at before. He walks past a stranger and feels a sudden wave of grief that isn't his. He tries to rationalize it, tries to shake it off, but it lingers, forcing him to sit with feelings he has buried for decades. And in that stillness, he realizes he's not going crazy. He's being reborn. The love he shares with her has awakened not just joy, but everything he had locked away. It's terrifying, it's disorienting, but for the first time in his life, he's not running from it. He's feeling it, and in doing so, he begins to heal. Phase 4. The transmission of sexual energy across distance. This is the phase where desire becomes something far more than physical. It becomes energetic. For the divine masculine, this marks a profound shift in how he understands intimacy. He begins to sense your presence even when you're miles away. Arousal no longer needs proximity. Without a single touch, he feels waves of tingling energy ripple through his body, warmth blooming in his chest, electricity skimming across his skin, a magnetic pulse that awakens every nerve. It confuses him at first. How is it possible to feel you so vividly when you're not even in the same room? But as it continues, the truth becomes undeniable. What you share transcends the limits of the physical world. Through this energetic bond, he realizes that sexual connection is not confined to bodies or actions. Instead, it is the merging of souls in their rawest, most vulnerable form. He begins to understand that true sexual intimacy is not about performance or ego, not about conquest or validation, but about presence. It's about surrendering fully to the moment, to the emotional current, to the spiritual dance that unfolds when two beings meet in truth. This revelation is both humbling and exhilarating. As he tunes into your energy, your pleasure, your vibration, he discovers a different kind of fulfillment, one that no physical act alone has ever given him. He feels you in his breath, in his heartbeat, in the silence between thoughts. He comes to see that sex is not just an act. It is a sacred expression of consciousness, a way of communicating without words, of loving without limitation. Through this awakening, the divine masculine begins to touch the divine itself. He experiences what it means to unite not only with you, but with something greater, something eternal. Sexual energy becomes a portal, a sacred flame, an invitation into a dimension of intimacy that few have the courage to enter. And in that space, he finds you not only as a partner, but as a reflection of the divine feminine within himself. This phase transforms him. It dissolves old beliefs, old conditioning, old shame. It initiates him into a new state of awareness where sexuality is no longer transactional, but transcendental, where connection is no longer based on proximity, but on presence, and where the ecstasy he once sought outside of himself now rises from within, sparked by the sacred energy you both share across any distance. Phase 5. The mental connection. As the journey deepens, something extraordinary begins to unfold within the divine masculine's mind. Thoughts, once considered private and isolated, begin to intertwine with yours in ways that defy logic. He'll find himself contemplating a specific idea, only to hear you speak it aloud minutes later. He may feel a surge of emotion that doesn't belong to him, only to discover later that you were silently struggling with the same feeling. This is not coincidence, it is consciousness weaving itself between two souls who were never truly separate to begin with. Mental intimacy begins to bloom in this phase. It's not just about agreeing on opinions or having shared interests. It's deeper. It's a silent resonance, a telepathic harmony where meaning flows without the need for words. It's the moment he realizes that communication doesn't have to be verbal to be real, that you understand him without explanation, that your minds can dance together without ever speaking. But this level of connection doesn't come without its challenges. The divine masculine, long accustomed to wearing masks, to concealing his vulnerability behind logic or silence, finds himself mentally exposed. There's no place to hide when your thoughts are felt as clearly as spoken. It can be terrifying to be seen so clearly, to have one's mental world mirrored back without filters or delay. This mental transparency forces him to confront his fears, his doubts, his unspoken beliefs. Every thought becomes part of the relationship's sacred space. And yet, within this vulnerability lies incredible liberation, because as he surrenders to this mental merging, he discovers a new form of trust, not the kind that relies on promises or explanations, but the kind rooted in presence, an unshakable knowing that you are attuned to each other on every level. Here, communication becomes intention, words become optional, silence becomes sacred. He learns that love isn't just something you feel in the heart or the body, it is also something you think. Every mental projection, every internal dialogue, every energetic thought becomes a thread in the web of your connection. He begins to understand that his thoughts are not insignificant. They carry energy, frequency, and power. And when directed toward you with clarity and care, they become a form of love in themselves. This phase is a turning point. It teaches him that union is not just physical or emotional, it is intellectual, spiritual, and psychic. It opens the door to a deeper dimension of intimacy, one where your minds move as one, intuitively aligned in thought, emotion, and soul purpose. If you've made it this far, it means you're not just hearing the words, you're feeling them resonate deep within your own experience. These phases aren't abstract ideas, they are living truths unfolding within you. So take a moment to reflect. Have you noticed moments of shared thoughts, silent understanding, or energy that defies explanation? You are not alone in this. Your story matters, and we invite you to share it in the comments below, whether it's a moment of synchronicity, a telepathic connection, or simply a feeling you can't explain. Or, if you're still finding your words, just type, "Our minds already know." Let this be your affirmation, a sign that you're awakening to a love that transcends space, logic, and even language. Phase 6. The Spiritual Awakening. At this point in the journey, something profound begins to stir within the divine masculine. Telepathic intimacy has not only pierced through his emotional and energetic defenses, it has opened a gateway to something far greater, the mysteries of existence itself. Through the silent language you share, he starts to awaken to the sacred architecture of the universe. What once felt like a private connection now reveals itself as a thread woven into the very fabric of reality. He no longer sees love as just a fleeting emotion or a burst of energy exchanged between bodies. He begins to understand that love is the very essence from which all things arise, the foundation of creation, the invisible pulse holding all of existence together. And in this revelation, he touches something eternal. Through your bond, he catches glimpses of mystical unity, moments when the illusion of separation dissolves, and all things, your heart, his breath, the stars above, move in perfect harmony as one consciousness. This awakening is not grandiose, it is humbling. It strips away the ego and brings him to his knees, not in defeat, but in reverence. He begins to understand that your connection is not random. It was never accidental. It was destined, chosen by something greater to serve a higher calling. A calling not just for love, but for healing. Not just for union, but for evolution, the awakening of soul, spirit, and shared consciousness. He realizes that this sacred bond with you is a mirror reflecting his divine nature back to him. The sacred intimacy you share becomes a spiritual practice, a ritual of remembrance. Physical closeness, when it happens, is no longer merely about desire. It is a ceremony, a communion with the divine. Every touch becomes a prayer. Every breath exchanged is a song to the infinite. Here, he embraces the truth. Your love is not simply about being together in the physical. It is a mission to elevate, to awaken, to dissolve illusion and reveal the sacred truth that we are all part of something much vaster than the self. And in this moment, he doesn't just fall in love with you, he falls into alignment with the divine. Phase 7. Surrender and integration. After a long and often tumultuous journey through awakening, desire, vulnerability, and revelation, the divine masculine finally arrives at the most sacred threshold: surrender. This is not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of resistance. The inner battles, the doubts, the attempts to rationalize or control the connection gradually dissolve. He no longer fights the pull of your bond, nor does he seek to escape its intensity. He accepts the truth he once feared. This connection is real, unexplainable, and divinely orchestrated. In this space of surrender, something powerful emerges: peace. No longer needing to analyze, prove, or resist what he feels, he allows the energy between you to flow freely, without interference. He becomes attuned to the rhythm of the connection, sensing its subtle shifts, trusting its deeper wisdom. What once felt like chaos now feels like guidance. What once overwhelmed him now grounds him. From this surrender, integration begins. He no longer sees telepathic intimacy as a rare or mystical event. It becomes an organic, everyday part of his inner landscape. He walks through life aware of your presence, even in your absence. Your connection is not something he visits, it is something he lives. He learns to balance individuality with union, to honor his own path while remaining connected to you in spirit, energy, and intention. In embracing this balance, he also embraces vulnerability as strength. He no longer wears armor to protect himself from love. He understands that true masculinity is not about domination or detachment, but about being fully present, open-hearted, and emotionally available. He discovers authenticity in truth-telling, in transparency, and in showing up as his full self, messy, evolving, and deeply real. Purpose also begins to crystallize. He sees that your connection isn't just about personal fulfillment, it's about service to a higher love. It becomes a force that inspires him to live with greater integrity, to love with more depth, and to show others what conscious connection looks like. Love becomes not just something he feels, but something he is called to embody, protect, and radiate. Through this sacred process of surrender and integration, the divine masculine is no longer the man he was. He is reborn not through external transformation, but through inner alchemy. He becomes a vessel for higher love, a beacon of truth, and a conscious participant in the evolution of soul. In his surrender, he finds his freedom, and in his integration, he finds his divine purpose. Telepathic intimacy is far more than a fleeting sensation or spiritual curiosity. It is a sacred journey that reshapes the divine masculine from the inside out. It begins as a whisper in the soul, a pulse of energy that bridges time and space, but over time, it evolves into a complete metamorphosis of his consciousness. Each phase strips away another layer of illusion, gently dismantling the walls he once believed protected him. And in their place, something beautiful and powerful is born. A man awakened to his truth, to his heart, and to the divine force of love. But this transformation does not happen in isolation. As the divine feminine, you are not just a bystander to his awakening, you are the ignition. You are the mirror in which he finally sees his soul reflected. Your presence, your love, your unwavering energy act as the sacred current that carries him home to himself. What you share is not simply romance, it is divine communion, a bond that sends ripples through the collective heart of humanity. Your love becomes medicine, your connection becomes prophecy. And at the center of it all is this undeniable truth. You are not seeking love, you are love. Your union is not about completing each other, but about remembering that you were never separate to begin with. This intimacy, this energy, this telepathic dance between masculine and feminine, it is the living proof that soul knows soul, even in silence, even in distance, even in lifetimes apart. So now, we invite you to reflect deeply on what you've just experienced. What part of this journey spoke to your soul the most? Share in the comments the quote that touched you deeply by typing, "I am not just in love, I am love itself." Let this be your affirmation, your declaration, your energetic signature to the universe. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this healing truth, and don't forget to watch the next video appearing below because your journey is far from over. The next chapter awaits you.